Greetings to all 5D chess aficionados. In the first part of our introduction to the 5D Chess Pro app, we covered the essentials, how to download and launch the app, how to register in the system and loyalty programs, explored preset settings, and learned how to create and accept challenges. We also reviewed the game interface with auxiliary functions of Jurassic Squares and daughter games. Now, having an understanding of how to create and play a game, we can start exploring the secondary but no less important features of the app. And we'll begin this exploration with the database of played games. When we create a challenge, we specify in the challenge settings whether to save the game in the database or not. Only the games of those challenges where we chose save will go to the database after they are completed. To open our existing game database, go to the My Game section, either by selecting it from the list here or by clicking the button here. Then click on the Database button. A window with a list of games will open. The games in this list are those whose information is on our local computer. If you open the app folder, you will find a games folder inside. Inside it, there are two folders. One of them is Database. This folder's contents need to be updated if you download the game database archive manually. But more on that later. Let's return to the app. The Load Local button is pressed automatically when this window is opened and loads the existing game database from that database folder on your computer. Therefore, if you downloaded the game database and overwrote the data in that folder, you can press this button to update the data without restarting the app. Above it is the Check for Updates button. After pressing it, the system will compare the existing local data with the data on the server. So you will need to wait a bit. Once the comparison is complete, the Download Missing Ones button will show how many new games have appeared in the game database since its last update. At the time of this video, the way game data is presented and downloaded from the server is not sufficiently optimized, and each game is stored in a separate file, and the files are downloaded sequentially. Therefore, this process can take a long time for a large number of files. If the number of missing games in our local database exceeds 10, the system will warn us about this and suggest downloading the database manually. But we can insist on downloading the games using the app. We press download and see that the number of missing games gradually decreases, and messages appear in the system chat about where specific files are being saved. Also, a button to stop the download process appeared in the system chat. This is in case you change your mind and decide to download the game database manually, for example. Let's do that. We stop the download process. Wait for the current file to download. And go to our Discord server. Go to the News and Updates channel and go to the first pinned message. Find the link to the latest game database update. Follow it, and download the file. Unpack it. We see the database folder that appeared. Go to the game folder and delete the old database folder. You could just drag and replace all its files. But you can do this if you haven't started and interrupted the game database download with the app, as we just did. The app could update the information about the games that were played after our downloaded archive was uploaded. And then there may be a gap between the information about the last game in the archive and the information about the last real game, which can lead to errors. Therefore, in our case, it is better to delete the old archive first. After that, move the new database folder to the place of the old one. Return to the app and press the already known Load Local button. And then Check for Updates button. We see that 3 new games have been played since the archive was created. Let's look at the end of the game list and pay attention to the X column, from exists. We see that all games have the value yes, and the last 3 have no. That is, they are not there. Let's download them. Press Download Missing Games. In the system chat, we see the already known messages about the download process. The download is complete, and all games now have an existing status, and we can fully use the current game database. Well, let's start using it. Each game in the list is represented by a row, in which we see the date of the game, then the nickname of the player who played white, then his rating if the game is rated. If it is not rated, the rating will be 0. Then, similarly, the player with black and his rating. Then the result of the game. Then the option of the game. Here will be information about whether this is a regular challenge or a game belonging to some event, a tournament for example. At the time of this video, tournaments and other competitions are still in development, so we see the word challenge everywhere. Then the type of preset and the type of time control. There is also a column on whether the game is commented on. But the ability to comment on games is also still in development. Then there is the already known column with information about whether the game is loaded on the local disk. Then a link to download the game, but it is not very interesting to us. So, if you know a specific game you want to go to, find it in the list of games and select it. Let's choose the first game. At the top, we see a duplicate hint of which game we selected. Press Open Selected Game. We see that the game has opened, but the game database window has not closed. This means that you can select and open several games from the database. We are currently satisfied with one, so let's close the window. Double-click on the right side of the game battlefield to go to the farthest future of our game and open the navigator. On the right in the game text, we can select the move we want to go to. When we click on it, we go to the board where the piece landed after this move, and the future after this move is removed from the game battlefield. However, it remains in the game text on the right, and we can still go to any move in the game in the past and future. Also, to move forward and backward through the game we can use the up and down arrows on the keyboard. Below in the game chat we can see communication between players and between spectators during the game, and then the result of the game with a rating recalculation. If we want to check some variance and consider other moves in a position, we first need to find the position for which we want to enter another move. For example this one. And create a daughter game for it. Create. We see that the list of moves in the game text is cut off. Let's make another move, for example this one, confirm, and we see that black also needs to go back one move and find a better defense strategy than moving the Tsarina to d7. But we are not analyzing the game now, we are getting acquainted and working with the game database. Moving through the list of moves in a daughter game is also possible. However, along with the boards on the game battlefield, the game text will also be cut off. Therefore, by selecting a row with a move we can roll the game back, but we cannot restore already cancelled moves. To restore cancelled moves there are two buttons in the upper right corner of the game move list. The first button is Next Move. By clicking on it, we will restore all moves from the parent game up to and including the next move. The second button is Last Move. By clicking on it, we will restore the entire parent game to the last move. Note that by clicking these buttons we overwrite the existing moves of the game. That is if there were 10 moves in the parent game and we created a daughter game on the 5th move, and entered our new 2 moves and ended up on the 7th move, and then click the Next Move button, our line will be overridden by the original moves of the parent game, and the daughter game will be restored to the 8th move. So, we learned how to scroll through the moves of the game and consider variance. Now let's return to selecting a game from the game database. Open the database and pay attention to the Use Preview Mode checkbox. If you don't know or don't remember the game you want to watch, you can select this mode. Select. And we see that the game database window has shrunk and moved to the corner. Now, by selecting a game from the list, we will see its ending on the game battlefield. The list of moves in the game chat will still be displayed on the right, and in the game description text we will also see the name of its preset and its details. But instead of the name of the game we will see the word New. This is a sign of an empty position for a game in the list of active games. Therefore we cannot create a daughter game from preview mode, but we can scroll through the moves of the game. When we find the game we are interested in, we can click Open Selected Game and then act according to the scenario described above. Now let's return to normal mode and notice the last line of statistics. It now records statistics for all games in the current list. How many wins, losses, and draws for white. Now let's look at the filters. Filter parameters are divided into 2 groups. The first group on the left selects the filter, and the group on the right sets the value for this filter. First, we have player 1. This is not the player with white pieces. This is any of the players. In the right group, if we check it, the filter will be applied, and only games involving this player will remain in our list. We can also specify which color our player 1 should play, white, black, or any color. The second filter is player 2. It is set similarly. Next is result. We can choose games where player 1 won, where player 2 won, where white won, where black won, where there was a draw, or any result. Next, we can filter by date, selecting the year and month of the start period and the year and month of the end period. Next is the filter by preset type. Standard, reversed royalty, variance, and created by user. Next we can choose the type of time control, bullet, blitz, rapid, classical, correspondence, without time control. Next we can choose rated and unrated games. The filter by option can be enabled by checking selected and choosing the option we are interested in from the list. Note that when we change the filters, the statistics are also recalculated. And if we have player 1 checked, the statistics will be visible for him. Also, if player 2 is checked, he will also be in the statistics. The last button here is Reset All Filters. By clicking it, we will see the full list of all existing games in the database again. Now we know how to update the played games database, find the necessary games in it, download them, and analyze them. I hope this video was useful and will help you improve your game skills by analyzing both your games and the games of other players. Write in the comments what you would like to learn about next time and feel free to ask questions. Thank you for your attention. Join our community on Discord, Telegram and Facebook via the links in the description or the QR codes you see on the screen. Add the Dropbox folder to your favorites, where you can always find the full current version of the app, the latest update, and the fresh game database. If you liked this video, don't forget to like it, leave a comment, subscribe, share this video with friends, support the channel, and hit the bell to not miss the next videos. All the best, and see you next time.